Chase Thomas podcast. My nephew needs me to record. See, I already hate it. I hate it.
All right, hello. Welcome back. Atlanta Sports Guys taping this on a Monday night where, look, things are good in certain parts of Atlanta. Shohei Ohtani showing some interest in the Atlanta Braves. Left field spot right there open. Braves can get another starter. They should be fine. The Hawks, I think, back in every regard outside of the folks who think Trae Young is going to start hitting threes at a very efficient clip. Like it's never coming. That's over. We need to move on from that. But that doesn't mean Trae Young and DeJounte Murray can't be a top 20 backcourt overall in the NBA right now, because those two, you look at all the metrics, playing very good basketball, and I'm in on the Hawks being a top 4 seed in the East. So that's trending up. But what's not trending up are the Atlanta Falcons, who are now on a 3-game losing streak. The bye is here on Sunday. A much-needed bye, but not something that Garrett, Chapman, and Max Marcovitch and myself saw coming heading into the bye week. The easiest schedule in the NFL, and the Atlanta Falcons are 4-6 heading into the bye. To talk all about what's going on right now with the Atlanta Falcons, Padea Python legend, Max Marcovitch. Max, good evening, sir. How are you?
Doing great. Well, I'm in this routine now where Saturdays lifts my spirits and then Sundays crush them, and that continued. So
could be worse. You could be doing Joe Milton and Taylor Heineke every weekend.
I extricated Joe Milton from my life a while ago, and I think, as you understand now, I'm quite thankful for that. Yeah, I could be, but I'm not. Thankfully, I have JJ McCarthy, and hopefully I'm going to have JJ McCarthy for many more years.
Oh, he wants him to be a Falcon so bad. Also, show the good folks what shirt you're rocking here on YouTube.
It's free hardball all day. We're leaning in. We're America's team, baby.
Have they given him the extension yet? I need the extension to come through.
I think they're going to announce it Ohio State week. I think that's the plan.
See, that I'm all here for. Everything about that, like, lean into, like, we're against the NCAA. This is all terrible. Because now you're the betting favorite to still win the national title. Like, I'm here for all this.
That, by the way.
I mean, but if they do, I can't wait for the takes. The takes after a Michigan national title based on everything. But also, the flex of Michigan winning without Jim Harbaugh, like, everything was set up for Penn State this year. And if it wasn't this year, Penn State's never breaking through. You get a down Ohio State offense with Kyle McCord and company. You completely lay an egg there. So the most vulnerable they've ever been offensively in the James Franklin era. You don't take advantage of that. And then you proceed to get just an unbelievable situation with Jim Harbaugh gone this week. So you're like, wow, this really worked out. Home game and everything else, like, and everything swirling around Michigan. We're actually going to have a worse offensive performance than we did against Ohio State and look even more anemic than we did.
Oh, they were better. They were better than they were against Ohio State.
I don't think so.
Not by much, but
I think Ohio State was a game. That was not a game. Michigan could have made that significantly worse.
Neither
All
of them
I'll
were
say
really
is
games.
Drew Aller is bad, man.
He is bad.
He's not very good.
You know, I try to give the benefit of the doubt, first year starter, whatever, but like, he was horrible. I mean, It's not even just the processing stuff. Like, the accuracy is awful. And it seems like he's gotten worse throughout the year, which is just, James Franklin is such a fucking pretender.
Look at this guy, the Michigan fan. He's so hype. Look at James Franklin, this fucking guy. You want to beat Jim Harbaugh? You want to come at the Kings of the North? You best not mess over here.
Got a Ryan Day too, and then what are they going to say then? We're going to win the Big Ten, and we're going to take the trophy from Tony Petitti's tiny little hands.
Oh my God. Michigan.
The gaslighting is spread all the way to Washington, D.C. I say,
I don't care, man. Whatever. I've fully leaned in.
I
it's
like
all right,
it.
man.
Also here, 19 on the game and 247 Sports Georgia Tech beat writer Garrett Chapman. Garrett, good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm good, man. I get to enjoy good football on Saturdays and Sundays. So, yeah.
Unpredictable football on Saturdays, because you never know what Georgia Tech's going to do any given week.
It could
might lose at home to Bowling Green, might beat Miami.
It's true.
Who knows?
It's true. But then I get to watch some team get right against the Atlanta Falcons. So it's like, that's the good football. It's just the bad football just happens to be played by the Atlanta Falcons every week. It's just frustrating on that end. But,
well, speaking of those
got their
Atlanta
get right
Falcons,
game, just like the Vikings got their get right game, just like the Titans got their get right game. I mean, we're the USC Trojans of the NFL.
I mean, no, I would much rather be the USC Trojans in the NFL. We're not the USC Trojans. I think we're like the Northwestern of the NFL.
Every offense gets right against the USC Trojans.
That's true, but I mean, at least USC is a fun offense. That's the part of it that the Atlanta Falcons very much do not have, where they're running some Army ass stuff week over week with this group. But to talk all about what's going on with the Atlanta Falcons as they head into the bye week, Garrett, first thing, you're leading afternoon drive in Atlanta today. Your leading take from the weekend was what for the Falcons?
All right, so I got two parts to this. One is what has happened, and then one is what we need. Look, this team needs David Onyemata and Grady Jarrett. Like the defenses look pretty bad. The trenches have not been effective, and Grady Jarrett, of course, is not coming back. David Onyemata was inactive on Sunday, and you saw the impact of that. Missing those dudes in the middle is just a big deal. But then on top of that, this team needs a damn quarterback. I mean, Desmond Ridder needs to be the guy down the stretch. Taylor Heineke's just not the guy. He wasn't the guy.
But I would rather them keep losing, right? Like Desmond Ridder might win them. I don't know. Like I'm terrified to put Ridder back in there because I'm like, they might save some jobs. No, I need Heineke to tank this thing.
Arthur Smith's going to play the guy who's going to keep his job. And the best person to do that is Desmond Ridder right now, the dude that you tied your ship to.
Yeah.
I mean, it gets like he's going to go down. Like if he's the anchor, then Arthur Smith's just got to ride that to the bottom. But Heineke is just not the dude. It's just not going to happen. What do they have? 60 yards passing at one point in this game, like the fourth quarter. It's piss poor.
I mean, they have no balls even. They're not challenging downfield at all. There's no vertical passing attack whatsoever to this group.
And I was doing the broadcast on Sunday, and we were just discussing off air. The cornerbacks are literally sitting there flat footed, like they're playing up because they know that you're not going to beat him down the field. Kyle Pitts has lost a step. And I think that's just because he's less than a year removed from the knee injury, or I guess he just passed the anniversary of it. So he's right at a year removed from, having a significant knee injury. And maybe that's going to come back next year, but maybe you did just burn a number 4 overall pick on a tight end who blew out his knee in his second year. And maybe that's just a hard pill that they need to swallow here soon. But I don't know at this point. It's looking very grim. The bye week came at kind of a tough time on one end because the noise around the program right now is just bad. And I mean, Arthur Smith might lose his job in this next week. I don't think that's going to happen. I'd be very surprised if it does happen. But it's just going to be very loud here for the next 2 weeks. But get healthy, come back and beat the Saints, and tune changes pretty quickly.
Max, what say you?
I am not going to defend Arthur Smith. But I think there's plenty of heat on Arthur Smith, and I think it's deserved at this point. But I want to go through the drafts that Terry Fontenot has put together as a Falcons general manager, and I don't think this is getting any sort of attention, and I don't really understand why. He's now had 3 drafts picking in the top 10 every year. We can even ignore this past draft if we want. The 2022 draft was London, who they can't use because the offense doesn't function that way. Ebiketie, who has 6 sacks. They traded up for him top of the second round. He has 6 total sacks in a year and a half now. Troy Anderson, who some promise, but I think Nate Landman is better. I think Nate Landman's probably better.
Yeah.
Ridder, who is not going to be the quarterback here. D'Angelo Malone, who has 1 career sack, probably won't be on the roster next year. Tyler Algier, who is the backup running back. Justin Schaefer, John Fitzpatrick. The year before, his first draft, Kyle Pitts, who is now, I mean, I think it's pretty safe to say a disastrous pick. Not necessarily because of who he is as a player, but because of who they passed on to take him. That draft was loaded, and you didn't get one of the loaded guys. That's awful. Richie Grant, who the entire Cardinals organization seems to have clowned yesterday. Jalen Mayfield, not on the team. Darren Hall, is he on the? He's not on the roster.
I think he's on the roster.
I think he got cut.
Yeah.
Drew Dahlman, okay. Taquan Graham, rotation D lineman. Adi Ogundeji, Avery Williams, Frank Darby. That is everyone who it was in the first 2 drafts that Terry Fontenot picked. We're not even going to talk about Bijan, which I don't know, man. It's not great. It doesn't feel great in hindsight, that pick. I don't know. I think that there's a lot of attention on Arthur Smith, and I think it's deserved. This offense needs to be better. but the roster's kind of a disaster. Like you build this up through the draft, and if you had good drafts, like I think they'd be good even without with piecing together a quarterback. And they need a quarterback, but I think it's kind of being slept on right now that like the roster's not very good either, and that falls on the GM ultimately. And I don't think he's on the hot seat yet. I do think Arthur Smith's seat is getting warmer. They're not going to fire him in season. Anyone who thought they would.
Do you not think so?
No.
I think it always just depends on how it goes. Like, how long does the losing streak go?
Look, if he loses another 2 or 3 games, then we can reassess. But like I'm saying, in a row.
I don't think this franchise operates that way. Personally,
I don't either.
I think that going into the year, it would have taken something pretty extreme to fire him at the end of the year, and I now think we are headed towards some version of that extreme if things continue this way, and they'll have to make a decision. But it's not going to happen mid-year.
I mean, do you trust Fontenot to hire the next guy? I mean, he didn't even hire Arthur Smith, so that's part of it too. Is like this was a weird process because
Rich McKay.
Yeah, he hired Arthur Smith, right? This was a McKay call.
Yeah, Smith and Fontenot were hired separately. Like they were not a package deal.
Which is not how you. This is not how any normal franchise operates. That's just not what you do.
They do. I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily true.
GMs sort of like cling to their guys, and it's not a healthy way to work. And like, it can work. Like it sometimes there needs to be some independence there, but it's not working.
No,
nothing's really working right now.
Who makes the decisions on players? Like, if I asked each of you directly, like, who do you think actually makes the decision, the final decision? I don't care about. Everyone has input, and I think too many people have input personally. But who makes the final decision? Is it Terry Fontenot or is it Arthur Smith?
I think it's McKay.
It's not McKay.
But that's the thing. But that's my point. It's like I have no idea who makes the final decision on players. I don't know, and I don't know. That goes with drafts and everything else. And I just don't have any confidence in an organization that runs with so many. Like, there's no true decision maker. I really just don't have confidence that Terry Fontenot is the only guy making decisions. I understand having input. Input's important, but having like buying power as a head coach that much is a little. I don't know.
So January 9th, 2023, Rich McKay, this is from Michael Rothstein of ESPN. Rich McKay, who has been the president and CEO of the Falcons since 2011, will remain as CEO and be in charge of football operations of the team, but is handing off the business side of operations to the franchise's newest team president, Greg Beadles. He's the final decision maker, I think, in football ops. Like, I think he is the final guy that you have to get final approval on anything.
He's more the liaison to the league. Like, he has an ear. He has the in with the league. He's on the competition committee, or at least he was. Mm-hmm. And Blank just likes him. So like that's
I mean, he's been here forever.
I think it comes down to this. I think the draft is Fontenot's wheelhouse. That's sort of his background to some extent. And I think based on the free agency decisions, I think it's very fair to question, like, there's a lot of Kyle Smith influence. That's his name, right? From
AJ Smith's son, the longtime Chargers.
Terry's background was a pro scout, so I think he has more to say in that. I thought that was my thought.
Think about how many guys they have signed from the Titans, the Bears, and Washington.
Yeah, it's Ryan Proehl's got a promotion. I remember before the year. He's a high up guy now.
Isn't Ryan Poles the general manager of the Bears?
I mean, not Ryan Proehl's, the guy who was the general manager before him at Chicago.
Yeah, I think it's Kyle
What Smith. Is his name? Pace? No. What is it? Ryan Pace. That's it. Not Ryan Poles. Ryan Pace. Yes. Ryan Pace is
yes. There we go. Yeah. We made it.
Ryan Poles, Ryan Pace. Pace
I think there's a lot of like, hey, I know this guy. Like, hey, I know this guy. Let's bring him in going on. And everyone does that to some extent, but I do feel like there's a little bit more of it here. And I think at the beginning of their tenure, you could chalk that up to they have no cap space. They're working on bargain bin deals. Like, let's just bring these guys in. We know them. Let's piece it together. But now that they're like actually in the sort of like go mode of this thing, you can't do that anymore. And like they went hard after Montez Sweat, and like, they needed a pass rusher. They also have familiarity with Montez Sweat. They didn't go hard after like other pass rushers. The only move they made was Kentavious Street, who they know because of Ryan Nielsen. I think it's a very fair question to ask who's responsible, but ultimately, like, it's not really for us to parse. Like, if the roster's not good enough, it falls to the GM, and that's.
Well, I mean, here's the broader stroke question here. Garrett, do you think they should clean house? Like, do you feel comfortable with this whole step? So you wouldn't clean Fontenot and Arthur Smith.
It's more just the idea that they won't, and it's like.
No, I'm saying if you're in charge, you're in Rich McKay's role. Do you clean house?
No, not right. Are you asking right now or just in general?
I'm saying it at the end of the year. Do you clean house?
I don't have. It's an incomplete sample size, so I don't know. Maybe this is just maybe this is just the low of the season. Maybe this is the bottom of the barrel, and then they shoot up. I don't know. Maybe they come out of the bye week and they're a different football team. I'm also a hopeless optimist.
I love this. You're still you're just like keep punching me in the stomach, Atlanta Falcons. You're just ready. You're getting up off the mat. I love this,
fan, dude. I'm just so numb to all of that crap. What do they get? Yeah. They can't hurt me anymore.
You say that. The Falcons are going to keep hurting you, Garrett. Like you say that.
I have to field so many angry Falcons calls on Sunday nights. It is absurd. And it's so bad for someone's mental health. I'm like deteriorating listening to all of these.
Save Garrett 2023.
Please. I mean, and look,
for help.
At the end
it really is. Garrett's just he's broken down from these calls. Like, is anyone positive? Is anyone like, give Arthur some more time? Is there an Atlanta sports fan take like that right now?
The general consensus was beaten down and broken.
Yeah.
It was more angry before last week. On Sunday night, it was pretty beat up and sad.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just because it was the late night crowd and probably they got into the bourbon a little bit. And they kind of got into their feelings. Maybe that's had something to do with it. But generally speaking, the anger happens during the day. And then at night, it's that cold reality that you are a Falcons fan. And that's just sort of our lot in life. And so it's kind of depressing down there at the late night side. But look, I'm not firing them. I still think that there's something to make of this season. They're third place. Yeah. But they've lost 3 games in a row and they're still in punching with an arm's length of
they haven't even played the Saints yet.
They haven't played the Saints. They've played 2 division opponents and they're 2-0.
Yeah.
So it's like at the end of the day, it's like things are still in front of them. They can still host a playoff game.
The Saints suck too. The Saints suck too.
The Saints are garbage. They're bad. The Buccaneers are dog shit. And then they have to come to Atlanta next time to play.
Like, do you want this team to win the division?
Left. No, this is exactly what I was gonna say. This is the same season we just had last year. And it's a complete fool's errand to like go.
Tom Brady is also not playing football in the NFC South this year.
No, but we don't want them to make the playoffs because then you're keeping everybody, and then we're running this back.
I'm saying they're gonna keep thinking they're in this thing.
Yeah,
and they even are in this thing, but for what? For what? Like, okay, we talked about all these issues, right? What is the one thing that like throughout all of football, like this one thing can make all these wrong things right? It's an elite quarterback. How the hell are they going to find one?
They're gonna sell the farm. They're going to sell the farm. But also,
do you trust Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot to be those guys who do it?
They're going to go get the sexiest name in the draft like they have every single year. All 3 years, they've just taken a sexy name. That's it. Like Drake London was a sexy name. Kyle Pitts was a sexy name. Bijan Robinson was bona fide. He was the sexiest guy in the draft, just in terms of just like, oh, wow, that's awesome. That's going to put people in the seats. I don't think they ever – my other thing, are we sure that they actually have a plan? Like, seriously, we go back.
They definitely don't have a quarterback plan.
No, but
that changes every year.
Going back even to the end of Matt Ryan's tenure, I feel like there was no plan. And then they maybe like kind of had an idea, and then they were like, oh, we're gonna go get Deshaun Watson. And then after that, then like, okay, I guess we're just gonna suck now. And then they sold everybody.
I think they also thought they were gonna get more
reacting to things, and it's like there's no steadfast vision right now, and I don't know what it is.
Well, they're also not drafting well. Like to Max's point, where it's like none of these drafts are hitting. So not only are you not like the Calais Campbell signing was good, Onyemata they need healthy, they need him playing, but like a lot of Fs in this draft.
The defense just isn't healthy right now, and I think if the defense gets healthy, then the defense is fine. But it's also the defense been developed through free agency where they're effective.
You don't build a roster like this through free agency. You don't rebuild a team through free agency.
Yeah.
And like
no.
We're talking about, like they probably will sell the farm to find a quarterback this year because they absolutely have to. But right now they pick 10th. Like 6 of those teams ahead of them also need a quarterback. Like it's not, there are a lot of teams that need quarterbacks. Like selling the farm isn't just like, last year it was a more doable thing because the quarterbacks were worse. But like,
well, the Bears will
May.
trade. They'll sell. They'll sell something. They're going to have two of the top three picks.
They'll take Drake May and Marvin Harrison and say thank you.
Maybe, or we offer them too much. And then
I'm just
maybe
saying,
they settle for somebody. I don't know.
The Giants need a quarterback. The Patriots need a quarterback. The Jets need a quarterback. All these bad teams need quarterbacks.
Jets have Aaron Rodgers, man. Come on, he's coming back from the Achilles.
If you pass on taking a quarterback because of 40 going Aaron Rodgers off an Achilles, I cannot help you.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
It's just like, I see this team stumbling to 7 wins and picking 12th and getting stuck there again.
But here's the other thing: like to win 10 games, which is what I picked them to win 10 games, they'd have to finish 6-1 down the stretch. Do we know that Arthur Smith is 7-14 in November and December in his career?
Is he really
7-14?
Ooh. And you're sitting at
4-6
right now
this year, by the way. I mean, I don't have any confidence. Outside of that, he's a 500 coach. He's a 500 coach who's had a winning record once.
Yeah.
In the entire time he's been here, and he was 4-3, and then proceeded to lose 3 games in a row. Like,
this is what we were going through the schedule earlier this year, and it was like, all these games are winnable. All of them are also losable because this is like I think this is one of the 5 to 8 worst teams in the league.
Yeah.
Well, but these are also so the margin in the NFL. I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know with this statement, but the margin in the NFL is so small. Like, you look at this, and I'm not trying to be Dabo Swinney here or anything, but you're like 2 plays away from legitimately being 6-4. Like, if Nate Landman is not playing linebacker and it's Troy Anderson and he actually has some closing speed and doesn't run a 4.9 40 or something,
leave Elijah Herring out.
We're talking about Josh Dobbs gets tackled. Kyler Murray doesn't go for 45 yards. Like, Josh Dobbs doesn't pick up a 4th down. And this team's 6-4, and that's what it comes down to.
I was thinking through that though, and
frustrating. You shouldn't be in that situation though.
The inverse is true too, though. Like, they could have easily lost that Houston game. They could have easily lost the Packers game. Oh my god, They could easily lost the Packers game. So that's just how the NFL works, I think.
Yeah, that's just the NFL. You're right.
Everyone cites 1-score games and whatever. Like, every game in the NFL is a 1-score game. You don't win them because you don't have the better quarterback and you don't have the defense that can hold up generally.
And then the rushing attack has just not been very effective. Turnovers have not been great. I mean, they rank the stats say that the rushing attack is fine. Eye test says otherwise. If you can see clearly that this team does not have faith in the rushing attack, and you're also doing that against some of the worst defenses in the NFL. Like, you're playing legitimately some of the worst teams in this entire league, and you're not able to establish your identity, the identity that seemingly we've been building for 3 years. And that's just a massive, massive red flag.
I'm not sure there's a single thing this team does above average. I'm serious. Like, they don't rush the passer above average. They don't throw the ball above average. They're probably an average running game at this point. Their pass protection is not above average. Their secondary is probably fine. Maybe
good. The secondary is good. I'll give them the secondary.
But is it above average? Is it one of the 14 best?
They were an above average rush defense, but without Onyemata and Grady, I don't think they are.
So frustrating.
This is, but you know what sucks too is you went through the last 2 years, right? Where you were trying to get out of the financial issues from the end of the previous administration, and fans we talked about in this podcast for the last 2 years, where it's the emotional investment. It's hey, we understand it's a gap year. You have Marcus Mariota last year, the end of the Matt Ryan era. You're riding it out, and you know that you're gonna have to reset, and it's gonna be a little bit uncomfortable. But you go through that kind of just thin roster, overachieving a little bit, and it's kind of cute. But then you're oh, we spent big money this offseason. We are committing to a lot of these guys. We see a division that's very winnable. We see an opening in the NFC as a whole, which has opened up in a major way, where it's the Eagles are right there. But outside of that, who else are you dead certain on? The Niners just went on a 3-game losing streak. The Packers are gone. The Vikings are gone. The Cowboys, no one will ever trust. You just look at it and you're hey, the NFC is very open. It's not like you have Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes and company crowding the top of this conference. It's a very, I shouldn't say it's an easy climb, but you can see the pathway to success over the next couple of years. And then it's just destroyed week over week where you're like, man, when was the payoff? I just feel like we missed the payoff. When you draft all of these skill position guys on offense year over year, you're like, I can't wait until they're all here. And you get to the mountaintop and you're like, is this what it was? This was what the plan was when you drafted all of these guys to use all of them in this way? That we have to have signs out and behind Pat McAfee show to like, hey, can you make sure to give Bijan Robinson where it's like, we want to get creative with Jonnu Smith stuff in the red zone. It's like, someone quote tweeted with like 19 different awesome Bijan Robinson goal line runs for Texas over the last 3 years. And you're like, yeah, great. Like, no, Bijan's okay. Like, maybe just give Bijan the ball in the goal line and think good things will happen. Just maybe trust the guy you drafted in that spot. But it's like, none of these guys are awesome. Drake London is not an awesome fit in the system. Kyle Pitts has done nothing with this offensive scheme. Now you have Bijan Robinson who's doing nothing with this offensive scheme. So to have that many guys over and over again that we were waiting and we're like, this is going to be so much fun, to not have any of those guys be fun and to not have any of those guys break out is damning enough for this whole scheme where you're like, I don't know who is to blame specifically, whether it's Smith or Terry Fontenot and them being not on the same page about how they were going to use these guys, because that's the other part of it is like, how does this happen? How do you draft these guys in the first round over and over again and like have these conversations in the draft war room and like, oh, I'm going to use him 30K. Like, hey, Terry's like, hey, if I go running back here at this spot, this is a premium spot. Are you sure you're going to be able to use him in your scheme and he's going to get this kind of value? Because it's going to require a lot of targets and a lot of attention right out of the gate to make this worthwhile for us. Like, is there a disconnect there? That's what I'm saying. Like, none of this has worked. Like, all of it is a disaster. And if worst case scenario, it's bad miscommunication. But you've missed on 3 premium picks that you don't get back. Like, they're in. The value's down. The value's down with Pitts. The value is down with Pitts with Drake London. And now you bet on Desmond Ridder, the 3rd round quarterback. That's out the door. Like, that's gone. So you've missed all across the board. Like, there's just misses everywhere on offense. And you're like, you don't get any of those back. And you're not even having fun. Like, the odds of all 3 of these guys all sucking in the Atlanta Falcons uniform this year were slim to none. None of us had this, like, being this miserable through 10 games. You're not giving us anything, Arthur. Give us something. I want one of these guys to be good this year. One of these guys to make these games fun. No one's doing it. End of rant.
I mean, when none of them are good, you go back to the common denominator.
Yeah.
It's on Smith. I mean, at that point, like, I think Drake London is a really good football player. I think he has the potential to be one of the best receivers in the NFL. I don't think his offense has the potential to make him that.
He was despondent yesterday in the locker room where he's like, just changes have to be made. Like, he was just like, he's done. Like, that man is he's just sad.
I mean, could you imagine? Like, I know that the NFL doesn't work this way, but could you imagine if we had Micah Parsons and Jalen Carter?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
2 guys who were absolutely
well, actually not
available.
Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter couldn't stay in Atlanta. That would not have.
Well, I mean, sure, off field.
Yeah, he had to go. Like, he had to go somewhere.
But say just like the football player, just the football player.
Yeah.
Those 2, like, but that's the thing. It's like you go get like the sexy toy, and you pass on something that is, just routinely, time and again, been confirmed to work in the NFL. Dominant edge rusher, dominant interior defensive lineman.
Yeah.
And they're the 2 best at it. Period. End of story. Stop. Full stop. They're the best at it. And you had the opportunity to take both of them, and you whiffed on both. And you went and took sexy skill players instead who you don't get the football to. Like, it's frustrating. I mean, but you have something on this on the sheet. It says specifically, like, say something nice about the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
The only thing nice that I have to say about the Atlanta Falcons is that they don't have a lot invested in the quarterback position, unlike everybody else in the NFL. Whether that's draft capital, whether that's financial capital, whatever it is. Like, at least we're not the New Orleans Saints who are getting Desmond Ridder for $100 million.
Ooh.
Like, at least we're not, like, I don't know, literally anybody else who's looking for a quarterback.
I mean, the Bucs have an open slate.
Like, the Chicago Bears need a quarterback, right? Too bad that they just spent a 1st-round pick on a quarterback who they now have to toss out the window. Yeah. Or the New York Jets, who just went and got Aaron Rodgers, who's just dead weight at this point. He blew out his Achilles, and he's got Zach Wilson, who they spent the 2nd overall pick on. You could be the Carolina Panthers, who just sent a king's ransom to the Chicago Bears to go get Bryce Young, who is just not the guy right now. Like, the vast majority of the other teams who are competing for a quarterback, they have a 1st-round guy on the roster, or they have $100+ $50+ million guy on the roster. The Atlanta Falcons don't have that. So we can afford, theoretically, to trade the farm, like I said earlier, because we don't have all of that money invested in the quarterback position where it's just sitting on the bench and burning. That's the only nice thing that I have to say about it, really. Well, that's the only nice thing that I have.
I can veer into some slight optimism. The fundamentals of the roster aren't broken. Like they have a ton of cap space going into next year. They have premium draft capital. They have the extra pick from Ridley. Like none of this is like doomed. And it's not like the Panthers are in a better position as a franchise. It's not like the Saints are in a better position as a franchise. It's not like the Bucs are in a better position as a franchise. So like nothing here is doomed. I think what we're pissed about is like I don't trust the coach. I don't trust the GM. So like even if they could make all these positive moves, they haven't shown you anything to say they will. And it all comes down to the quarterback. Like, what are you going to do at quarterback? And my gut right now tells me they are going to go out and get a veteran because Smith knows, like, I think it's going to be one more year. I think it's going to be one more year.
Do you think Smith keeps his job?
No.
I do. Yeah.
Well,
do you really?
The Athletic just reported that he's going to have his job through the end of the season. That's just what the Athletic just said.
I mean,
as it literally
bringing him back. Oh my God.
I should rephrase.
God forbid Ryan Tannehill is the starting quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons next year.
There's no way.
Clip this, Chase.
Yeah.
God forbid he is the starting quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons next year.
He might be the backup.
He's more likely to be retired. He's entering like 40-year-old Matt Schaub territory.
He's like 34.
I know.
He's been banged up and hurt so much. I just have a terrible feeling. Maybe they go get Justin Fields or Kyler Murray or something like that. Kyler Murray would be a disaster. So before I say that, it'd be a disaster to bring Kyler Murray to Atlanta. Justin Fields feels like the type of irrational, brash decision that management would make to at least appease some fans.
I don't. To me, if they trade for Justin Fields and that's the plan, they have completely.
There is no plan if they trade for Justin Fields.
They're cooked. This franchise is cooked because they clearly didn't trust the pre-draft eval on him, or they would have just drafted him. Yeah. And so if they trade for Justin Fields, it is literally just to appease the fans. And if you're making decisions just to appease the fans to keep your job, you are screwed.
Also, those never work. That quarterback who's traded right after being a first-round bust. Like, when does that ever work out for anybody?
It's never worked.
And then what? You going to pick up his fifth-year option or no?
Yeah, that's just no. That's not working.
But who is that veteran, though? That's the thing.
It's Kyler. I think it's Kyler.
I don't want Kyler in a Falcons uniform.
I mean, I would like it. Like, if you're going to run back Arthur Smith, at least give me a fun quarterback. Like, at least I know you have a top 10 quarterback at that point. Like, even if you don't use him right. Like,
well, I guess Call of Duty's coming out this year, so it's
yes.
Okay.
It came out this week. Call of Duty came out this week, and Kyler still torched the Falcons.
Yeah, he's also playing for his job.
I think he put himself in timeout. The options are going to be Kyler, Fields, Cousins,
Jones.
CL,
Mac Jones is in there.
Oh my God!
Don't talk. Don't.
Oh my God!
He just got benched.
I'm not going to.
It's not going to be.
I can't.
It's not going to. Let me just put it out there. It's not going to be Mac Jones. I'm just saying he might be looking for a job next year.
He might be looking for a job, and he'll be lucky if he finds like a backup job somewhere.
I just don't think there's Geno Smith out there. You know, like there's not a guy who's going to come in and be the Cape Crusader and come in and save us. There's no White Knight out there.
I mean, would you call about Stafford?
Fuck no.
Okay.
No, Kirk Cousins is coming off of a debilitating injury, and he may never be the same guy. Like if you had come to me before the injury, I would have said Kirk Cousins needs to be an Atlanta Falcon next year, just because he's a mature dude who knows how to run put together a competent offense. I mean, be damned everything that you say about whatever it is in the big game, which is hogwash just in general. But it's after the injury, no, I can't really trust that at all. Arthur Smith, I see your point, Max. Though it's like he's gonna want to bring in a vet. I just don't know who that vet is. Like if I want somebody, my wish list, the top of my wish list is Drake May, because Caleb Williams is not going to be a Falcon. It's just not happening. He's going to go be a Chicago Bear, or he's going to be one of those other teams that just bottom out, whether that's the Arizona Cardinals, the Bears, or whoever else. Drake May, I think, would look really, really good in a Falcons uniform. He'd be perfect because he has the athleticism to run in Arthur Smith's offense. He has the intelligence. He's shown it time and again at North Carolina. He has the arm strength. That can do a lot of different things. Now, that's a long, long, long way away, but I think he's the best option for the Atlanta Falcons, period.
I agree. I think he'd be Arthur Smith's favorite too. I don't see how you can get up there in this draft. Like
you trade everything. You say what you got to do.
I don't even know if you can trade everything. Like everyone else can trade everything too. So like the Patriots, who will be 4 spots ahead or whatever, could also trade. Like it's just really hard. And I just don't think the timeline lines up that other than a May or a Caleb Williams, who are like, you feel pretty confident are going to be really good. Like, I don't know if the timeline works out to draft another rookie quarterback and develop him and
then you fire the coach, and that never works out because then you fire and you
bring in a new coach.
And then you bring in a new coach who's like, "Oh, you don't fit my system."
Right. Like that's just not good process.
Well, I think Drake May is a systemless quarterback. Actually, that doesn't exist.
I really do. Quarterback. I really do think JJ McCarthy is going to be a good NFL quarterback.
I love
this.
I
don't think I'm going to be honest. I don't think that aligns with the state of the Falcons right now, because I do think he will take some time to sort of become a real NFL quarterback, and like he's got all the tools, and I would have loved to see him in year 1 of Arthur Smith.
I just don't think if Arthur's back, he's not going to be allowed to get it. Like the job is on the line. Like you'll have to go vet to save your job. Like I just don't think he's going to be allowed to develop another quarterback. Like Ritter was his shot, and I think he's going to have to go vet.
Who is the version of Stafford out there that maybe we don't see as available yet, but like could eventually become
Jared
available?
Goff.
Who'd you say?
Jared Goff.
Oh, I think you said Connor Shaw. I was like, they pulling it.
Literally just repeat with the Lions aren't letting him go. He's clearly the guy for Dan Campbell.
Yeah, I think they're just going to extend him.
But he's coming into a contract year is what I'm saying. So he's like by contract standards, he's the guy.
Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones is one of those guys, but he's also coming off of a debilitating knee injury.
Yeah, I mean ACL, the guy's usually bounce back, but
you never know. But he relies a lot on his athleticism.
Yeah,
and like that's a really important facet for somebody who's coming off of a knee injury. So
Sam Howell,
you don't know what that guy's going to be. Sam Howell's not being traded.
Okay.
Sam
Even if Belichick's running that front office next year.
Russell Wilson.
Oh God. No.
Like, I don't think that there's. I mean, I like the idea in theory, but I just don't know if that guy's there. And we're also just so.
What if a guy like Lamar Jackson was available?
Too far away.
What if there was an opopportunity to trade for somebody like Lamar Jackson?
Don't even bring that up. We were never in position to get Lamar Jackson.
What this team
Nobody
needs,
was.
What this team needs is like, I think of this team as like in the same place that the pre-Joe Burrow Bengals were, where like they're just toiled in like nothingness. They are completely irrelevant. Nobody cares about them. They don't have a winning culture. They don't have a winning front office.
Everything.
Nothing about that franchise was going right. And when you get the right guy at quarterback, it fixes everything. And like they just have to do it. And if the thing is like,
but I don't want Smith and Fonda to draft that next quarterback.
You do that in the draft. That's where you do that. You don't do that by signing a veteran quarterback.
If they played a normal NFL schedule, they might be in position to do that. Like Drake May might actually be that guy.
That's the worst part.
Yeah.
The worst schedule.
But we say that. Look at who they lost to the last 3 weeks. The schedule is terrible, and it doesn't matter.
I know.
Who are our wins against? The Buccaneers, the Packers,
the Panthers,
the Panthers,
and
the Texans. The Texans, who were also dog water when we played them. Well, they were not dog water when we played them. They're actually playing really well.
I mean, look at this schedule the rest of the way. You get the Saints off a bye. Then you go to the Jets, the Bucks at home, Panthers on the road, the Colts at home, at Chicago.
All of those are winnable games. They're also all losable.
Like, this schedule is legitimately, as Max just said, insane. There's no excuse for not winning the division with this schedule.
We might pick 18.
They're a game back.
Very realistically.
I don't even want them to win the division at this point. Like,
yeah, and it's right in front of them. They still got the Saints twice. This sucks. I hate all of this. I think it's because we all emotionally got invested again. Because it was like they spent all this money.
Yeah,
Jesse Bates was awesome.
I honestly think it is because at least I was like, well, at least there's next year that I'm optimistic.
Yeah.
I thought
there's a good chance that this is just a completely different football team next year, and I don't know what to make of that. But it's like if you bring in a new head coach, I don't think we're that far away necessarily, because you're gonna have you have some good pieces to play with. I mean, the offensive line, Caleb McGarry's been not good this year. You fixed Caleb McGarry, bring in a different guy at right tackle. You can do that in the draft.
Here's the problem. They have They have two huge needs, and they're the two most difficult needs in the entire NFL to fix. They need a stud edge rusher, and they need a stud quarterback. And like the reason that they have those needs is because they've spent 3 top 10 picks on a running back, a tight end, and a receiver who they don't use. Like
you get those guys.
You can trace these things to like decisions they made that they.
We need a Texans situation where you get Will Anderson and C.J. Stroud back to back, because that's flipped the Texans. To your point, Max, you just get C.J. Stroud and suddenly everything's fixed in Houston.
Well, that's the thing. Like they could have got C.J. Stroud. The Falcons could have got C.J. Stroud if they felt very convicted in that guy and they thought he was the guy he is. Like they could have made the Panthers trade, and they didn't.
I mean, he looks like a Matt Ryan.
He looks better than Matt Ryan.
We'll see. I mean, Matt Ryan's not being slept on a little bit.
His rookie year though. He's much better.
Mike Mularkey over here.
He's a legit like borderline MVP candidate. Matt Ryan was like a really good rookie. Like
he was a runaway rookie of the year though.
Stroud might be the best rookie.
CJ Stroud might be rookie of the year again. I don't know. I think there's a lot. When I watch Stroud, he reminds me a little bit of Matty Ice. By the say. Max Marcovitch, thank you as always, my friend. Padea Python, nothing really to plug, right? Like I don't know what to plug with you because Garrett's over here at everything all the time. Okay, yeah, free John Harbaugh, thanks. Jim Harbaugh, excuse me. That's great. Love that for you, Max. Garrett Chapman, 19 on the game. Every week you get college football overdrive that came or overdrive
twice a week, every Monday morning and Thursday morning. And
there
then
you go.
College football game time on Saturdays from 8 till noon. You can find it on 92.9 The Game or on the Odyssey app, wherever you find your podcasts. You can find it there too. And with overtime as well. And then high school scoreboard show on Friday nights. I do, and then GoJackets.com for Georgia Tech coverage. And then call me on Falcons Live or on Sunday nights after one of your depressing Falcons.
No, don't call him. Garrett, you opened the show. You were a beaten man. Stop calling Garrett.
I need positivity, man. I need positivity.
I'll give you some positivity.
We need to call in Max. We need bye week. Are you doing it on a bye week? I like the Falcons against the bye this weekend. It feels like this is where the Falcons get right. I like the bye here.
Dude, I had a caller said specifically, he said the only way the Falcons win the bye week is if they fire Arthur Smith.
I also love that he's using the bye week to keep.
I love callers, man. Callers are so funny.
Oh my god, what a time!
I love them.
Max Marcovitch, Garrett Chapman, always a pleasure. I'll talk to y'all soon.